Nice one! There you must go.
Hey guys, so I am in the States now. Our family decided to repatriate to the States, but that's a story for another time. But welcome to today's vlog, and it is a story time vlog. So today, as you have seen in the intro to this season, there's a helicopter, and I'm going to tell a story about how I got the footage of that helicopter and how it got into the intro, but more importantly, I think the story behind how I got the footage of the helicopter is much more interesting. So, in the first video of this season, you would have seen my best friend Paul when he came to Cape Town to visit me. It's a cricket one where I go to the cricket match, the T20 cricket match. And made it to the top. Paul and I decided that we were going to eat our snacks, just kind of take a few shots, hang out for a bit, because Paul wanted to go to see Bokop, which is a really colorful Muslim community in downtown Cape Town. But when I got to the top, I saw this lady that looked like she was in a little bit of distress. And strangely enough, I had seen her the previous day at the waterfront when I was there, and she kind of her and her husband kind of stood out because they were wearing a particular college. I think it was a Notre Dame top. I can't quite remember. And Americans kind of stick out once you've lived in South Africa long enough. You kind of identify them a mile away. Case in point, this guy. But she looked like she was in a bit of distress. And so I started talking to her, and come to find out she had just switched blood pressure medication, and she was kind of having a hard time catching her breath, and she was kind of feeling the effects of the hike. Because the hike, Cape Town is at sea level, but it does have a dramatic rise in elevation, which tends to happen when you climb a mountain. And although Lion's Head isn't super drastic, if you're on blood pressure medication and you aren't healthy, it can cause issues. So, in speaking to the lady, found out she just switched blood pressure medication, and also she was feeling the effects of the hike. And oh yeah, a little interesting fact: my best friend Paul, he is an emergency room doctor, so yeah, he happened to be on top of the mountain with me, and he started asking her questions and stuff, and he suggested that she try to get down as fast as possible. She wasn't panicked, but you know, you could tell the lady was concerned. And her husband was on his cell phone calling emergency services. I think it was the National Park or emergency services. And he was talking to him, and he was saying, you know, like, my wife is having a hard time catching her breath. She's struggling a bit, and we might need help getting down. And I don't remember exactly verbatim what he said in the conversation, but basically it didn't end the way he wanted to. I think they said she'd have to wait some time, like maybe an hour or so, for someone to come and get them. And this next part I would not suggest that you do, but according to my friend who does do emergency room medicine, said, yeah, if you can get down quick, that would kind of be the best thing to kind of alleviate the symptoms that you're having. So we volunteered to walk her and her husband down off the mountain. And as it turns out, the lady is a native of New Orleans, like I am. And well, I was born in New Orleans. I went to high school in New Orleans. My family's from New Orleans, but I was raised in another part of Louisiana. Long story. But she was a native of New Orleans. And she said, she was actually quite funny coming down the mountain. She started saying, "Oh, thank you, God, for sending this angel to come and get me down off the mountain. And someone from my hometown, on all the mountains in all the world, you send someone from my hometown to come and get me down off this mountain. Thank you, God. And you couldn't help but smile seeing her enthusiasm. She's a little shaky, so we had to take it slowly coming down the mountain. And finally we got past the part where you needed chains on Lion's Head. If you've been up Lion's Head, you know there's a part where you have chains, and then just kind of goes to a normal kind of like walking path that you would see in like a nature trail. But during that trip, Paul and I decided to go hiking. So we went to one of my wife and I's favorite hiking spots in Cape Town, which is Lion's Head. It's a fairly straightforward hike. There's not a whole lot of traversing or anything. You just you park your car and then you go up a path. You go up a path, and then there's a little bit of climbing on ladders, on chain ladders, and then I'd say the last 50 meters or so is it's not the hardest thing in the world, but you do need to be kind of plugged in and aware. You can't just kind of go willy-nilly with it. So my best friend Paul and I, we went hiking up Lion's Head, and day started off pretty normal. Got some footage of Paul and I hiking. We get down to that part, and I look up and I notice we took a break at this part because that part took us a little bit longer than usual, and she was feeling a little bit winded, but she had started to feel a little bit better. And we sat down on the side of the mountain. I think I have a picture of it. I'll insert that here. And we notice that there's a helicopter flying.
No, I think
So, flashback to earlier in the story, the husband was on the phone with emergency services, and they said it would be highly unlikely that anyone would be able to come and get them, just because, anyway. So we notice this helicopter, and we notice it's coming towards us, and we're like, oh, that's interesting. You don't see too many helicopters around Lion's Head. And we look, and we notice it's an emergency helicopter, like a search and rescue helicopter. So we go, oh, that's interesting. I wonder if they're coming for us, and just kind of jokingly. So we started going further down the trail, making our way back down the mountain, and this parks ranger comes up, and he's just bounding up, just coming up, just looking very hectically. He's like, are you the ones who called? Are you the ones who called? This is my horrible South African accent. Are you the ones who called us? Are you the ones who called us? Who told us that you need to get down off the mountain? And we're like, yeah, this is the person here. They're fine. We're getting them down off the mountain. And he goes, wait here. And he goes bounding up the mountain, and he's on his walkie-talkie, just chit-chatting away. And he comes back down a few minutes later. We're still making our way down the mountain at this point. We're having a laugh. We're talking about it. We're just talking, having a good time. And he says, wait here. And then we notice that the helicopter starts coming back over the mountain. And it's at this point he says, "Miss, we are going to take you to the hospital." This is my South African / Wakandan accent. We are going to take you down. We'll take you down to the hospital in the helicopter. I'm like, okay. The lady at this point, I mean, she's pretty much back to normal. She's like, oh, okay. And so at this point, it's like a movie. We're literally on the side of the mountain. The mountain is like right here, and there's about 2.5. It's about 2.5, 3 meters That's 7-8 feet, I think, 8-9ish feet in American, between the edge of the mountain. And so the thing about helicopters, if you've ever been close to them, there's this thing called the wash, which is when the wind is circulating up into the blades, it whooshes back. And so since we're close to the mountain, the wash is, the wind is hitting the mountain, bouncing off the mountain, hitting us. And it doesn't feel like, it feels quite like it's kind of pushing you a bit, but you can kind of resist it. So at this point in time, Paul, the husband of the lady, and myself are literally flush against the mountain like this while the helicopter is hovering. And this guy is coming down in jean shorts, because it's South Africa. Jean shorts, very short jean shorts by the way, coming down off the mountain, off the helicopter in a basket. And we're just hanging to the side of the mountain like this. And he puts the lady in a harness and then hoists her up. And that's the footage I'll insert now. And so at this point, we're kind of like, what in the world just happened? So we finish, the husband, my best friend and myself, we finished ascending down the mountain, and we can see that the helicopter's gone further down the road towards Signal Hill, because Lion's Head and Signal Hill is kind of are connected, to an ambulance. And by this point in time, it takes us about 15 minutes to get down. We see the ambulance stop right in front of where this is where the story gets really funny. The ambulance stops at the base, and the lady hops out. And as it turns out, the ambulance couldn't start when they put her in it. And the ambulance couldn't start when they got in. So the gentleman who was seeing to her in the ambulance, the emergency worker, tried to call a separate ambulance, but his cell phone didn't work. So eventually they were able to flag down somebody and call the hospital and ask them to send a second ambulance, but it would take about an hour and a half to get to where they were. So at this point in time, the lady says, you know what, I'm fine, don't worry about it, forget it. And and so she gets out the ambulance and she meets her husband. And so my best friend and I make sure that they can get to where they need to go. She was fine at this point. My friend checked her out again. All her vital signs were kind of where they needed to be, and she seemed okay. And so they end up taking off and going about their day. To this day, I can't remember what their name was. I do believe they lived in Virginia or something like that. So if you guys are out there and you're watching this, I am a real person, because the lady, for whatever reason, thought I was an actual angel. And I am a real person, and yeah, I hope you guys are doing well. I'm doing fine, my family's doing fine. So yeah, that was a crazy story, and one of many that I've had while living in Africa. Yeah, and that video clip is in the intro to this season, so yeah. So thanks for watching, guys. Till next time, peace, love, Afro Greece.